Hey everybody, in today's video I'm talking about Empire Flippers, specifically my experience buying a site through Empire Flippers. When I first got started in evaluating brokers and websites, to buy because I wanted to add them to my portfolio, I had some money set aside to do that, and it was really hard to know who to trust, because it's quite a bit of money, right? You're not just handing over $1,000 or $2,000. I mean, if you go on Empire Flippers and look at their listings, they're selling sites anywhere between 20,000 and millions of dollars. And so you want to feel, I guess, good about handing over your money to people in trust while you complete this purchase, and not just trusting the seller, but also trusting the broker. And further, before I went through this process, I didn't really understand how it would go and what the timeline would be and how it would happen. And so I just thought I would make a video and just explain how it worked, what I liked, what I didn't like, just so that if you're thinking about buying a website through Empire Flippers, or maybe through Flippa or Quiet Light or FE International or someone else, at least you'll know how that worked out for me through Empire Flippers. And I'm going to share my coffee with you this morning. But anyway, in 2019 was the year that I went ahead and bought a site through Empire Flippers. And how did I find the site? I just found the site going through the listings. I just was going through the listings and then decided, hey, I'd like to know more about this one particular site. So if you're not familiar with Empire Flippers as a broker for selling websites, when you click on the listing, you'll get some information, but it's really general. You won't be able to get access to the URL or to the site or to any of the information about it unless you are willing to put down a deposit. I think that the reason they do this is a good one, is that they want to prevent people from just coming in and stealing the ideas. And they also ask you to agree to a non-confidentiality, or a confidentiality agreement, not non-confidentiality, but a confidentiality agreement, so that you can't just go out and start a new business with someone else's idea. For example, when you put your Amazon, product up there for everyone to see, then people can go and maybe copy your listing, or, they know what's working. And so that's a common strategy that people go through on Flippa, or, check out other Shopify sites just to get ideas about what to sell and take that idea and run with it. So, if somebody who's got to put up a certain percentage, I think it's 5% of the listing price, is not going to be that, not necessarily going to have the money to put down a deposit. So if nobody's going to have $5 grand just sitting around if they're brand new, if their goal is just to steal someone else's idea. If someone has $5 grand in the bank, they're not going to be putting down deposits at Empire Flippers to get ideas. They're going to be doing it themselves. They would probably have businesses already going in together. So I saw the site there, and I went ahead and put down a deposit, and I used my credit card, and it was super easy to do. And it's also super easy to get your deposit back. You don't even have to ask them. You can just click a button that says, I want my deposit back, and they'll start refunding it. Or you can just ask support to get your deposit back. So they don't take a percentage of it. I mean, the full deposit came back to me when I decided that I didn't want to look at the site. And so I saw a site that I wanted to look at, so I put down a deposit, and literally within an hour I got an email that had a bunch of information about the site. It had the site URLs, it had some general information that looked like it had been taken from Moz or Ahrefs about the number of backlinks and the site age and the site owner. And then I got a Google spreadsheet that had links with information that you might find on Google Analytics, like the amount of traffic per month that the site had seen for this site. It was only a couple years old, so they gave me all of the information that they had. There's also information about the earnings, so the monetization strategy and how much money was earned per month. This package was multiple sites, so it wasn't just one site. So I went ahead and looked at the sites, and then I had a lot of questions. So instead of just making an offer at that point, what I did was sent several requests for information or to have questions answered by the seller to the broker. And I was assigned an account manager. And, I found the people with Empire Flippers to be really helpful and on point and on the ball, but they weren't necessarily experts in the businesses. So I don't feel like I know a lot but I did feel like I knew more about the sites than the people that were handling the transaction. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but you just got to remember that when you are dealing with the broker, that you may not be dealing with experts in the technology or in the business. So, don't rely upon the things that they have to say to you about the business, because they may not necessarily know or even understand what it is that you're asking or why you want to know. But anyway, I asked several questions, and they went and got those answers for me, or they connected me up with the seller, and the seller answered those questions for me. They facilitate a conversation if you want to talk to the seller directly. They gave me access to Google Analytics and to all the various accounts, because I really wanted to do my due diligence. Like, I just don't trust anybody or anything with my money, and I really wanted to know if the information that was provided to me was legit. I mean, they say over and over, oh, we vet the sellers, and we don't, let people who are in here trying to commit fraud and blah, blah, blah. But I just don't trust, because the broker, they're looking to make sales. Like, that is their goal. They may say, oh, well, we want to help the world, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, they have a bottom line too. So what they want to do more than anything is close a sale. So you just got to remember that they're not looking out for you, no matter what they say. Each one of them has a vested financial interest in the sale. So regardless, the due diligence period lasted as long as I wanted it to. I mean, somebody could have bought the site out from under me, because when you put the deposit down, it doesn't mean that the due diligence period, is unique to you, or that the seller can't go off and sell it to someone else. I mean, the seller could have gotten an offer and accepted it, while I was doing that. If you have a deposit down and someone else makes an offer, you'll be given a certain amount of time, like 24 hours, to either counter or pay cash or pay over or whatever, to try to get the site if you really want it. But I didn't have that happen. The site I was looking at, I did a lot of due diligence on it, and then I made an offer on the site, but I didn't make an offer of the listing price. So if I'd made the listing price offer, the site probably would have closed right away, and then we would have moved on into migration and all the rest. But I made a below listing offer, and that set off, like, I'd say 2 weeks worth of back and forth. The seller is located on the other side of the world, so we had to work around the timing. I would email or call someone through Empire Flippers, and then the seller would be asleep where he was, and so then there was just this delay. So a lot of things took a long time to go back and forth and answer questions, offer rejected, counter offer rejected. So this took several days to go back and forth to finally get down to a place where we came to an acceptable agreement, and eventually, finally, we came to an agreement on terms. Now, you can use your own purchase, sale, asset purchase agreement, or you can use the terms provided through Empire Flippers. When you agree to start negotiations on the site, or when you put down the deposit, I forget which, you check the box that agrees to their terms, and there's a bunch of different terms that talk about the buyer's representations and the seller's representations, and then what happens if the sale doesn't close. And I just recommend that you read those really carefully, and if you think that it's a risk to use the Empire Flippers terms, that you have a lawyer, hire a lawyer, and have them do your own. I think that any site that's selling for more than $75,000 to $100,000, it would probably behoove you to use a professional purchase agreement rather than using Empire Flippers, just because you want to have someone who's there and legitimately looking out for your interests. The Empire Flippers one is definitely going to be more balanced, and also to protect Empire Flippers more than it is to protect you. But regardless, so back to my story, this story that is already 9 minutes in and I haven't gotten hardly anywhere, I feel like. The seller accepted my offer, and then we went into what I would call the migrations period and the income verification period. So in the listing, the Empire Flippers makes a representation to what the monthly income is for the site, or the monthly revenue. And then after an offer is accepted, they do migration for you. So they hire a team. They have a team of people who get access to all of your accounts, and you can do it yourself, but I just prefer to let them do it. You give them your logins and passwords to things, and then they start moving the assets over and coordinate that with the seller. So as the buyer, you don't have to do that if you don't want to. And then once they have everything moved and everything is ready to go, and you're happy with how everything looks, they will set aside 2 weeks to see how the site performs and how the business performs. And if the site in 2 weeks would earn the equivalent of half of what the site was represented to earn. So for example, if the site is listed at earning $1,000 a month, during the investigation period, it needs to earn the equivalent of what would be half, so 50% of what it would earn in a month. So theoretically, that would be $500 in a month. But then, because they're only doing a period of 2 weeks, so half of a half, that site needs to earn at least $250 in 2 weeks for a site that is represented to earn normally $1,000 a month. And theoretically, if it earns at least $250 in 2 weeks, that it would earn $500 in a month. And then that would go ahead and check the box for, this site is earning, and then it would move forward to closing the sale. In my experience, and this is something I think that people who are looking at purchasing AdSense sites as well as other sites should be wary of, is that during migration, a lot of times you're not just stepping into their shoes, you're actually transferring the site to new hosting or to new domain name ownership, or you have a new Google AdSense account, or you have a new seller's account, or new this, new that, or sometimes things change, so you have to install new ad blocks, or it's very hard to make everything exactly the same. And this is why I think that they have this threshold that's so low, is 50% of the income, because there's a lot that you can't control after migration or during migration. And I had this experience. I had an AdSense account, and this site was performing really well on this other seller's site. And then during migration, we had to put new ad blocks from my account into the site, and those didn't perform as well initially, and they still haven't. And I don't know how long it is going to take till they get to the point where they are performing as well as they did for the seller. And I'm not upset about it, because I still feel like I got a great deal on the site, because I got the site for well under what they had it listed for. But all the same, I think that if I had bought the site and then expected to immediately be earning the same amount as the seller was, or as was represented by Empire Flippers in the listing, I think I would have been pretty disappointed and maybe even angry. But luckily, I had really, I guess, appropriate, or I had good expectations about it. I just didn't have really over high expectations on what the site would earn or what I could expect to earn from the site. I suspected that it might take some time for the site to get back to where it was earning before. And also, just running the site, I know there's going to be a point where I would be able to get it to where it was, and potentially even better. But the primary purpose of buying these sites was to get an asset that had a lot of traffic, and then I could work on the monetization on my own, and improving what it was that had already been done. But it still was kind of like this thing where, okay, I can't necessarily assume that the site will just perform as well as it did before, because there is a lot of stuff that we can't control. We really want it to perform as well as it did, and the seller certainly wants it to perform well, and so do I, but there's a lot of stuff that we can't control through AdSense. So the migration period ended up taking a long time, and the investigation or the income verification period ended up taking a long time, because it just took a while to get the site back to a place where it was earning enough to go ahead and pass the inspection period. But so I guess it's been about 2 months since I put my initial offer on the site and had it accepted. The migration didn't take that long, but just working out the kinks with Google AdSense has taken a long time. Luckily, and I'm happy about it, we've gotten to a place where the site is earning well, and we're ready to close on the site. And so we're finalizing the migration, just getting all of the accounts. And I felt totally comfortable, and I didn't feel at all like my information was being misused or that there was any pressure to take my money or to give it to the seller before I was ready. I feel totally good about all of that. And I also feel good about the transition and the handling of the assets. And I've also bought properties on Flippa, and I did not feel that as much comfort as I do here, because I feel like there's a team that is helping me to do this. And on Flippa, you're kind of just on your own and really have to trust that the seller is legit. And when you get the assets from them, they're not going to take your money and run, or before you can finish, migrating everything. So I feel pretty good about it. I am hoping that here in the near future that I'll be able to make the site as profitable as it was before. The seller, I don't have any feelings that the seller was trying to take advantage of me or take advantage of the process. As far as working with Empire Flippers, I felt pretty good about it. I think that if I changed anything, I would probably reduce the number of people that are working on my file. There are lots of customer service people. They have a whole team on migration. They have a supervisor. And so I've gotten contact from a lot of different people. And I guess I just wish that team was smaller so that they know more about me and maybe weren't involved in so many transactions, because sometimes individuals might not remember necessarily what it was that we talked about, not because they're bad at their jobs, but because they just have a lot to do. So maybe they forgot a detail here or there, but as soon as I reminded them of it, and also because so much of what we do is in writing through email, it didn't it wasn't a problem. But that's the one thing I would change, is that I would have more of a one-on-one situation where I wasn't working with lots of different people. But anyway, that was my Empire Flippers experience. Overall, I give it a thumbs up. I would do it again. I thought that the site was a good asset, and I think it's going to be a good purchase. And of course, I can come back in a year's time and reflect on whether or not it was a good idea or not. So you can look for that video in 12 months. But otherwise, yeah, I recommend it. Have you bought or sold anything through Empire Flippers, or are you thinking of doing it? I'm not an affiliate. I don't get paid anything to say anything about the experience one way or another. But if you're thinking about it or you have questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. I'm happy to answer them and tell you more about my experience. Before you go, please do me the favor, if you watched this whole thing and found that it was valuable to you at all, give me a thumbs up or leave me a comment, or do me the favor of subscribing, because when you do that, it tells me that you like this content and you're interested in hearing more content about buying passive income sites, or building a passive income business, or finding a way to make money online so that you can leave your 9-to-5 job. And frankly, it's just nice to know that there are people out there who actually see these videos that aren't my mom. All right, everybody, take care. I'll see you in the next video.